Hello, Nigerians, and welcome to another edition of Politics is Life. My name is Yetunde Makinde. Today, I'm discussing why Nigeria is not working. In this episode, I'll discuss the fundamental problem, and in episode 2, that's in part 2, I'll discuss the co-factors that contribute to the fundamental problem of why Nigeria is not working. Contrary to what many think, the fundamental problem Nigeria suffers from is that of leadership, not corruption. As a matter of fact, corruption is a global phenomenon, and it's only the quality of leadership of a particular country or society that determines whether corruption will be amplified or minimized in the society. Importantly, a country's leadership is only as good as its political parties. This means that the quality of political parties determines the quality of leadership. In a situation where dirty, indecent men without scruples dominate the political space, it's only expected that the behavioral traits, the character traits of these individuals, men and women, will invariably filter into the general society, because the mannerism, the attitude and behavior of leaders impact and affect those they lead. Now, anyone who has been paying attention is aware Nigeria really does not have political parties. I say this because the primary function of political parties is to field competent candidates for election who, upon winning, will push party policies and programs. Of course, it's a given that these policies will enact programs and projects, tangible and intangible, that are in the interest of the constituents or constituencies that put them to power. In view of this, ask yourself, if the so-called political parties that have dominated our political space since 1999 have done anything remotely close to what I just described as the core purpose of political parties. If you're in doubt, the moribund state of infrastructure is all the proof you need that the ruling elite, APC and PDP, don't care. They just do not give a bleep about you and I. Legendary Fela Kuti already informed us that our leaders, more like rulers if you ask me, like themselves, and that they are shadow criminals. Then they like themselves just like that, then be shadow criminals just like that. That's what Fela said so long ago, and it's still relevant even today. I'll drop the link to that particular track in the description box, just in case anyone wants to listen to it again. One thing I would also like to state, like I noted in my book, is that it's practically impossible to discuss Nigeria's political struggle without mentioning Fela. It's also noteworthy to state that the unfortunate years of military rule caused and created the condition that we have today, where lots of Nigerians, especially youngins, have no idea what the role of political parties are, and that political parties are supposed to be founded upon an ideology. It's this ideology of political parties that serves as a cohesion factor. It's the ideology that brings the individuals who are membered in that party and the leadership together. I'll use the example of the action group to illustrate and to highlight what I'm trying to share here. The action group was a pre-independence political party of the defunct Western region, Nigeria, and it was a party that was founded upon an ideology of democratic socialism. In addition to a political philosophy centered on people's well-being, are the exemplary quality and style of action group's leadership, which guaranteed its regional success in contrast to other regions. Objectively speaking, Action Group's legacy is yet to be surpassed in the history of Nigeria to date. Now let's get interactive. I did like to hear what you know to be or might consider is the political ideology or philosophy of APC and PDP or any of the other political parties that we have in Nigeria. Leave your thoughts and leave me a word in the comment section. I did love to read them. I did love to hear from you. Saying Nigeria's political space right now is toxic is an understatement, because the reality is that it's an ongoing shit show. So what's the way forward? What's the solution? How do we resolve the problematic situation of poor public sector governance that we have on our hands? Because that's the problem, not corruption. To be precise, this problem won't go away until we do something about it. Because constantly talking about problems is not a solution. Taking decisive action or actions is the smart and right thing to do. Likewise, complaining and waiting for someone with a magical wand to come whisk your personal problems or national problem, as it were, away is fantasy. The real world just doesn't work like that. The real world doesn't function on prayer and fast. Praying and fasting don't solve problems. It's action that does. So if we're serious and realistic about solving our political dilemma, we've got to act. So what shall we do? What I'm prescribing we do is organize ourselves into a formidable opposition. That's a commonsensical thing to do. Build a people's party, a political party from ground up, from grassroots all the way to the national level. While this may sound daunting, it's however the realistic solution to the leadership deficit that confronts us. We must take our fate into our own hands. How? By clinching political power. Political power is never dashed to anyone. You brace yourself up and take it, not through the force of violence or protestation, but the use of intelligence. That's mind over matter. That's the mind. Intelligence is the mind. And we all say mind over matter. That's mind over challenge, mind over situation, mind over difficulties. That's how we surmount them, by the use of intelligence. So it's channeling our intelligence, our time, our money, and other resources at our disposal that can solve the problem. I do not subscribe to violence or protestation, because violence begets violence. Protestation, while it may have worked in the 50s and in the 60s, just doesn't work in the 21st centuries. At best, it gets you noticed, and at worst can get you imprisoned or killed. So, for me, this is what we've got to do to reverse Nigeria's gloomy future. There are no shortcuts to success. If you're like me, who's had a fair share of adversity, who's had a fair share of life throwing her curveballs, if you've had to deal with the vagaries of life, then you know that there are no shortcuts to success. You've got to get in the trench, do the heavy lifting, and move the obstacle off your path to move ahead. Also, anyone who understands modern day political dynamics will accept and agree that what I've proposed, which is that we organize ourselves into a formidable front, is a much better proposition than mass protest or any other action that does not require critical thinking. That is the use of our collective intelligence and intellect. So this brings me to the end of episode 1, and I'll see you in part 2. Ireo.